Wars are not won by steel and fire alone. They are won in the silent, shadowed rooms where the future is read before it is written, where the whispers of an enemy are untangled thread by thread, and where victory is forged not in the heat of a furnace, but in the crucible of the human mind. Our story begins in the long, dark shadow of December 7th, 1941. The world awoke to the thunder of an attack on Pearl Harbor, a day of infamy that left the U.S. Pacific Fleet a smoldering ruin on the floor of the ocean. Despair was a heavy cloak over the nation. Yet, in the midst of this devastation, fate had left a door ajar. The Japanese bombers, in their meticulous planning, had missed the most vital targets, the American aircraft carriers, which were out at sea, and the island's vast fuel reserves and repair facilities. This oversight was not a reprieve, it was a challenge. It was the starting pistol for a new kind of war, one that would be decided by reach, by air power, and, most critically, by intelligence. Deep beneath the ground in a windowless basement in Hawaii, a place nicknamed the Dungeon, this new war was already being waged. This was Station Hypo, the U.S. Navy's combat intelligence unit, and its commander was a brilliant, unconventional, and often cantankerous officer named Joseph Rochefort. His world was not one of naval charts and fleet maneuvers, but of numbers, symbols, and the ghost-like chatter of an enemy he could not see. His team was tasked with a Herculean labor to break Japan's master naval code, JN-25. It was a dizzyingly complex system, a digital fortress that the Japanese believed was impenetrable. After Pearl Harbor, cracking it felt less like a mission and more like a prayer. But Joseph Rochefort was not a man given to idle prayer. He was a man of fierce intellect and relentless dedication. He and his team, an eclectic band of misfits and geniuses, worked in a perpetual twilight, fueled by stale coffee and an unyielding sense of duty. There was Thomas Dyer, the chief cryptographer, a man who could see patterns in chaos the way a composer hears music in silence. There were linguists who understood the subtle nuances of the Japanese language and culture, knowing that a code is not just mathematics, but a reflection of the minds that created it. They worked surrounded by the constant clatter of IBM punch card machines, primitive computers that sifted through endless combinations, searching for a single point of light in an ocean of darkness. They were codebreakers, but they were also detectives, piecing together a puzzle with millions of missing pieces, knowing that the fate of thousands of lives rested on their tired shoulders. Months of grueling work yielded fragments, whispers of a grand enemy plan. The Japanese were preparing a massive operation, an armada larger than the one that had struck Pearl Harbor, designed to finish the job and eliminate the American fleet for good. The intercepted messages all pointed to a primary target, a place they cryptically called AF. But where was AF? The High Command in Washington, the powerful OP-20G, was convinced it was the Aleutian Islands or even the West Coast. They saw the intelligence differently, their analysis clouded by distance and bureaucracy. But Rochefort, living and breathing the enemy's radio traffic, felt it in his bones. He saw the patterns they missed. He believed AF was a tiny, strategically vital atoll in the middle of the Pacific, Midway Island. To be wrong meant disaster. To be right and not be believed was just as bad. Rochefort knew he needed undeniable proof. So, with the audacity that defined him, he devised a trap not of steel, but of information. He arranged for the American base on Midway to send out an unencrypted radio message. A simple, believable piece of false information claiming their freshwater distillation plant had broken down. It was a breadcrumb cast upon the digital waters. The team at Station Hypo held their breath and waited. The silence was agonizing. Then it came. A Japanese intelligence outpost, having intercepted the American message, sent a coded report back to their commanders. Rochefort's team, their hands trembling with anticipation, descended upon the message. As they deciphered the text, the letters appeared one by one, forming the sentence that would change the course of the war. AF is experiencing water shortages. They had it. The trap had been sprung. AF was Midway. The puzzle was nearly complete, but one crucial piece remained. When? The answer came from another of Rochefort's brilliant analysts, a quiet lieutenant commander named Jasper Holmes. After weeks of staring at strings of numbers, he made a breakthrough, cracking the Japanese system for encrypting date-time groups. Suddenly, the final veil was lifted. Rochefort could now tell his superiors not only where the Japanese would strike, but the exact day they would arrive, June 4th or 5th, 1942. The intelligence was flown to Admiral Chester Nimitz, the stoic commander of the U.S. Pacific Fleet. He was faced with a monumental choice. His advisors in Washington were telling him one thing, but this eccentric commander in a basement in Hawaii was telling him another. Nimitz looked at the cold, hard logic of Rochefort's report, the elegant proof of the water shortage ruse, and made a decision based on trust. He would bet everything on the unseen heroes of Station Hypo. The gamble was immense. The American fleet was outnumbered and outgunned. One of his 3 precious carriers, the USS Yorktown, was severely damaged. A normal repair would take months. Admiral Nimitz gave his men an impossible order: fix it in 3 days. Fueled by the same desperate urgency as the codebreakers, shipbuilders worked around the clock in a miracle of engineering and willpower. In 72 hours, the USS Yorktown, patched and bruised but ready for a fight, steamed out of Pearl Harbor to join the fleet. They weren't sailing to defend Midway. They were sailing to set an ambush. On June 4th, 1942, the Japanese fleet, confident of complete surprise, sailed into the trap. As their planes flew off to bomb the island, their carrier decks were a chaotic scene of refueling and rearming for a second wave. It was their moment of maximum vulnerability, and at that exact moment, guided by Rochefort's intelligence, American dive bombers appeared like bolts from a clear blue sky. In 5 fateful minutes, the tide of the entire Pacific War was turned. The bombs found their marks, turning the decks of the Japanese carriers into raging infernos. One by one, the 4 titans of the Imperial Fleet, the Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, and Hiryu, the very same carriers that had led the attack on Pearl Harbor, were sent to the bottom of the ocean. It was a victory so total, so decisive, that it defied belief. Japan lost 4 of its finest carriers and its most experienced pilots, losses from which it would never recover. America's industrial might could replace its ships, Japan's could not. The balance of power in the Pacific had shifted permanently. The victory at Midway was a testament to the courage of the pilots and sailors. But it was born in the quiet, desperate work of Joseph Rochefort and his team. Yet, for the man who was the silent architect of this victory, there were no parades, no medals. His reward was a bitter one. His genius was matched only by his disdain for bureaucracy. He had been right when powerful men were wrong, and for this insubordination he was pushed aside. He was relieved of his command, his contributions buried under layers of official secrecy and political infighting. The story of Station Hypo and its monumental achievement remained classified for over 30 years. A ghost story whispered among intelligence circles but unknown to the world. Joseph Rochefort passed away never having received the public recognition he so profoundly deserved. It wasn't until 1986, long after his death, that the truth was fully declassified, and he was posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. His story is a powerful reminder that the path of a pioneer is often a lonely one, and that the greatest contributions are not always met with the loudest applause. It is a testament to the fact that true impact is measured not in accolades, but in the course of history that you change. The Battle of Midway teaches us that knowledge truly is power, and that understanding is the ultimate weapon. It proves that a handful of dedicated people, working in a dark room, armed with nothing more than their intellect and an unbreakable will, can indeed change the world. Their legacy is a silent one, but it echoes forever in the peace that was won and the future that was saved. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this piece of history, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more stories like it.